Martha Davis was an extraordinary woman. Student, teacher, daughter, mother, journalist, volunteer. Fearless. No, that's not right. She once talked to me about her many fears, but she never let her fears hold her back. Why, she would have spoken to Queen Elizabeth with the same smile she used for a neighbor. She loved people. How fortunate we were to know her. She promoted education and the arts, and her spirit lives on.
My Mother's Life by Sydney Shields. It was a Friday night, and everyone was in the anticipation of a Friday night football game. Everyone except for Kathy Todd, who was in the hospital expecting the birth of a little girl.
This was written by my Aunt Melanie. Growing up with a twin is an experience that most people only wonder about. Frequently, Melissa and I are asked, "What is it like to have a twin?" We usually say, "We don't know what it's like not to have a twin." However, that's really not a good answer. Most people can relate to having a best friend, and Melissa is definitely my best friend and always has been.
Growing Up as Melissa's Little Brother by Randy Todd. I'm sure that I drove her crazy, but isn't that what little brothers are supposed to do? But we did have a lot of good times. I remember when we would go camping in Fernandina and St. Augustine and being at the beach. I remember we would go to my Grandma Todd's and play with our cousins. I also remember Melissa and Melanie rushing out the door and getting into their car so they wouldn't have to take their little brother with them and cramp their style. Little did they know, I was the cool one.
As Melissa grew into adulthood and began college, she was unsure of what should be her major. After some investigating, it didn't take long for her to realize that her calling lay in the field of education. She worked very hard in her degree, which was before the days of online classes. She had to commute with Valdosta for years to finish up her teaching degree while working full-time at the DA's office in Waycross.
One day, she met a man named Greg Shields. They talked a little bit and found that they had a lot in common, so they decided to see each other again. They dated for a very long time. Greg went into the Navy, but they still maintained a long-distance relationship. After Greg came home from the Navy, he realized that he loved Melissa, and he proposed. They got married, and they were happier than ever. Shortly after they got married, Melissa got her master's degree in teaching and got a job at Waresboro Elementary School. Then the young couple was able to buy their own house. Then they decided to have a child. Finally, they had a beautiful baby girl named Sydney Megan Shields, and they were the happiest family ever.
Melissa learned that none of her students, who were very poor and from rural areas, had ever had a birthday party or been to one. So she decided to remedy that situation. She threw a huge birthday party for her entire class, and it was grand indeed. The children were thrilled, and I am sure they will never forget it.
Melissa and Greg have been married for 24 years, and Sydney is 13 years old. Melissa is now the writing teacher at Waresboro Elementary. Greg retired from the Georgia Department of Corrections. Sydney has gotten into the theater, and the whole family enjoys watching her perform. Sometimes they all annoy each other, but they all love each other. They've never been happier.
Who can turn the world on with her smile? Who can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile? Well, it's you, girl, and you should know it. With each glance and every little movement you show it. Love is all around, no need to waste it. You can never tell, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all. You're gonna make it after all.
I hope I grow up to be just like her.
All in all, Melissa is a great sister with a lot of love in her heart. She is a wonderful person, and I will always love her.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
Songs that made the hit parade.
Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
And you knew when you were there.
and man, woman. Mister, we could use a man like Herbert over again. Didn't need no